Welcome to Intel Studios Veterans Matter live stream broadcast, the first live stream broadcast for veterans in the tri-state New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania areas.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Veterans Matter live stream broadcast. We welcome all our audience, and it is our sincere hope that today's broadcast will assist and enlighten you, or at least let you know that there's help available if you need it. If you would like your friends to participate in today's show, have them go to our website, veteransmatternj.com. Click on the Our Shows icon, then click subscribe. You can also go directly to YouTube. Click the search button, type Intel Studios Livestream, then scroll down the options until you see Veterans Matter. Our phone lines are open throughout the broadcast, and Mike will announce when he will begin taking calls. The phone number is 609-798-4475. Please be patient as the calls are answered in the order in which they appear. And now, Veterans Matter with your host, Mike Merlino.
And welcome to Veterans Matter live stream broadcasts. I just wanted to, before I introduce my guests, I want to do a little shout out to the listeners. I got a couple of emails and a couple of texts this week. People trying to tune in to last week's shows. So just to give you a quick rundown on what took place, as everybody was aware, last week's show was basically about a couple of glitches with our administration, and mostly the talk was about Afghanistan and about the swap between Russia and the United States. And I thought the show went real well. There wasn't a bunch of totally negative, or there certainly wasn't anything on there except some opinions. But on Monday, I received an email from YouTube telling me that the veterans who spoke out against YouTube's misinformation policy. They removed the content from YouTube, and for all purposes at that time, I thought we had lost the show. It was removed from the Veterans Matter live stream broadcast website, but we have been able to put the show on our Mac, so we do have it for future use. I just got to figure out where to put it where it won't be removed again. It's kind of discouraging being on public radio for almost 10 years and then putting together a live stream broadcast specifically to give our veterans a voice. Our veterans are the ones who have sacrificed so much for every freedom and liberty that we enjoy, and that's why I do the show. And here is YouTube, I guess, a liberal arm of this government that would like to not give our veterans a voice. We will continue to do this weekly and hope for the best. And I really want to thank our guests for coming here today from North Jersey. And my first guest I'd like to introduce is a United States Marine Corps veteran. He is the sitting commander of the New Jersey State VFW as we speak. I'd like to welcome to Veterans Matter live stream broadcasts, Jay Boxwell. Jay, welcome to Veterans Matter.
Afternoon, Mike. Thank you for having me.
It's been great because I've been very lucky in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months to get 4 of the last state commanders. I had Brian Weiner, I had Hageman came in, and then having Jay come. It's like the icing on the cake. This will be our last show before the new year because of the holidays coming up. So we will end it in great fashion. Also with us today is a Marine Corps veteran and a veteran of Operation Desert Storm. I want to introduce and welcome to Veterans Matter, Michael Boll. Mike, welcome to Veterans Matter.
Thanks for having me here today. I'm pretty excited to be on the show and share what our charity does and working with the VFW as well.
Both you guys, having served in the Marine Corps, one of the things that I would like to do to honor you guys in this. It's a little, I didn't get a chance this year, and COVID kind of put a damper on things. I usually attend the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Dinner in Atlantic City, and when that Marine Corps band comes in, I mean, I never served the Marine Corps, and the goosebumps, it's just unbelievable. You guys got to be so proud of what it all stands for.
I just want to correct you real quick, Mike. Sure. So I was United States Navy Corpsman stationed with the Marines, because the Marines already have a few good men, which is the Navy Corpsman, right? So,
okay.
So Mike's over here laughing. So I spent more time with the Marine Corps than I did with the Navy.
I have a good friend of mine, Derek Pham. He's actually a dentist down here, and he does the Veterans Smile Day, where they bring the veteran. He same way. He was in the Navy, but was in Iraq with the
more time with the Marines.
Corps.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay, well, I'm
It's
sorry.
kind of like our mascot.
But before I get into the work you're doing today, Jay, I want to take you back a ways. I want to take you all the way back to high school.
Mm-hmm.
You're making a decision about the rest of your life, and were you thinking then about going into the military?
Well, I was looking forward to going to college. I lost a scholarship because I hurt my knee, pulled the scholarship for football away, and my parents, were a blue-collar family, and at the time, the recession in the early 80s, things were tight, and wasn't able to to go to college, for the cost that we had. But I remember the stories that my dad had told me that when he had his foot blown off or partially amputated, of the Navy Corpsman that saved his life. And I'd said, at that point, Dad, I wanted to go into the military, and he refused to sign the papers for me to go in the Marine Corps. So I said, you know what? I said, I'll go and become a Navy Corpsman. And he thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread, because he said you could use your brain. He didn't know that I had a plan in my head to go through and get specialized training and go with the Marines at that point. But that was the end result of how I ended up getting into the military. Is, I heard the stories. I come from a military family. And I said, that is the next option I have. And went right in, and from the time I went in to the time I got out, I had great experiences, and it laid the foundation for the person that I am to be able to provide the services that we have today.
A lot of us have heard, I don't know if I would say disinformation, but you served during the Iran-Contra.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a glimpse of what that was like? I mean, we hear a lot about it, but not too many people. I've never had anyone on the show that actually served there.
But the interesting part was we didn't know what we were getting into when we went down there. They said, "Come on, let's go. You guys are getting deployed." Didn't tell us where we were going until we landed in Panama. And then in Panama, they told us that we're going to be going to a makeshift base in Honduras. And then we were going to be going over the border to provide training and consultation for the rebels to help them fight back against Daniel Ortega and the communist regime that was taking over Nicaragua at the time. So we were actually showing them, basically military operations, kind of like a mini boot camp for the rebels that were, trying to go and fight against the communist regime. And, we would go during the day and provide them training and then come back at night and stay at a base called Puerto Cortez, Honduras. And we stayed there, and, that was where we were at, unless we had nighttime operations where we're teaching them night maneuvers and stuff. But we actually came back out of country, every day, because we didn't. The United States wasn't involved in military action in the country of Nicaragua. That wasn't known until, some 20 years later with Oliver North, when all that stuff got the roof blown off it. So, but it was a covert operation. It was an interesting experience as a 18, 19-year-old. But it was my first deployment. A lot of good people, a true team environment. It's what the military was made for, and what we did is to promote freedom across the globe, and that was my first introduction to how the United States handled their business overseas.
Now, a lot of controversy came out of that.
There was.
As I was speaking about before the show, when we did Vet Rock 2013, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, Marine Corps, came and spoke that day. And did you ever get a chance? He oversaw that operation, correct?
Yep. He oversaw it. He came down once we came back and gave us a briefing, about what we did and how that it was, a covert operation. Nobody was supposed to know about it, and basically, loose lips sink ships. And we did what we were supposed to do, and it wasn't to be discussed. And then, years later, when everything really hit the fan, that it was exposed. People started asking a lot of questions, and there's a lot more that came out, with the training actually that was done in the United States to support the Iran-Contra operations down in Alabama and all kinds of stuff. So there was a lot more to it than just having boots on the ground down in Honduras and Nicaragua.
Let me ask you a question. What year did you actually go into the military?
I went in 1984. And
it came out?
In 1990. Okay,
so your entire military experience was under President Reagan.
That's correct. Yep.
Because I've had a good friend of mine who actually co-hosted the radio show with me, Commander Bill Butler, Marine Corps. He started under President Carter, mm-hmm. and ended under President Reagan, and there was such a difference in the morale between the two. You were pretty lucky to have served under a great commander-in-chief.
I was very lucky.
We're going to get back to the work that Jay's doing and some of the stuff he's done every year. I'm going to transfer over to our other guest, Mike Boll. Mike, I'm going to hit you with the same thing. I'm going to take you back to high school. And what was it? Did you already know at your senior in high school that the military was on the horizon?
Well, you got to remember the 80s was all the Rambo and all the commando-type movies. Hollywood played a big role, and that's something I wanted to do since I was a teenager, even before. Just knew that I was going to be a Marine, too. I just was infatuated with the Marine Corps. Signed up when I was 17, and the day I graduated, 3 weeks later, I was sent over to Parris Island and started my training.
And what year was that?
That was 1989. So July of 1989, I started my training.
And you hear so much about boot camp, and then did you go from boot camp to infantry training? Or
yes.
Yeah. In your opinion, what was toughest? Boot camp or infantry?
Boot camp definitely was the toughest. I was lucky because I went after high school, so I was somewhat trained in knew that how when someone yells at you, listen. I felt bad for anyone who took like a year off and decided to go because they were not used to like the teacher type student relationship. So those guys had a harder time really wrapping it tight and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I was brainwashed pretty quick, if you want to know the truth, and did exactly what I was told to do. I fooled around a lot before I went into the Marine Corps, and it take about 24 hours. I knew that wasn't going to fly there, so I did exactly what I was told to do, and actually enjoyed it.
And how many years were you in the Marine?
4 years.
4 years, and you started. It was under the Bush administration, correct?
Yes.
And ended under the Clinton administration.
Yes.
Yeah, the beginning of his administration.
Right.
Could you notice any difference between the administration?
I tell people this the one story that's actually pretty good to tell because of today's society. There was a picture of Clinton on the wall as a commander-in-chief, and one of the Marines made fun of the commander, like the picture. And the gunny just started yelling and screaming at everybody in there, saying, that's the commander-in-chief. And I knew that the gunny couldn't stand Clinton. But you never disrespect the president, no matter who it is. And nowadays, we don't see that as much. But the Marine Corps stands strong when it comes to when you're in uniform and you're doing your duties, you're not playing politics and you're not saying anything stupid like that because it won't fly. And I like that about the Marine Corps a lot.
Right. Yeah, well, I think it's so important today because after coming so many years at the Iraq and Afghanistan war, politics never enters into it when you're in battle. I mean, you don't care color, creed, none of that stuff comes into play, especially politics. You just want the person next to you to have your back, and vice versa. And one of the things on this show, we understand that the commander-in-chief, no matter who it is, maybe one day down the road, it could be a woman president. But no matter who it is, that person is the top of the military. And if you don't like that person, you should still respect the office he holds. Don't like to see a lot of the negative stuff, and that's why it bothers me so much to have lost that show last week. When you think back, the sacrifices you guys made for all the years you put in, and your families have also sacrificed when you're away. It just dishonors your service to have someone say your voice doesn't matter. Now, what's interesting, Jay, you are now the top man in the VFW in the state of New Jersey. And over the years, I've had a really good seat in watching that play out in the state, and I had great conversations with Brian Weiner, with Barbara Hageman, her husband, and it seems today, and you could answer this better, that all of the VSO are now trying to work together to prioritize what's important for veterans. Do you see that now?
I still think that there's some fragmentation with veteran service organizations. They each have their little niche. The Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I'm not speaking because I'm the head of the organization in New Jersey, but I think we are truly where the rubber meets the road in advocacy, not just for the veterans, but for their families that receive services and need services. A lot of folks have taken a back seat to taking that fight, whether it be to the governor, to the legislature, whatever it might be. We haven't stopped. And the individuals that you mentioned previously, Brian Weiner, Barbara Kim Hageman, Ken Hageman, right? Some big shoes for me to fill. They were the original group. Brian, with his year with COVID, with having, the state shut down, but still maintaining the veteran focus to get the services and all the stuff that hit the fan with the veterans homes during Brian's year, right? That still is an issue today with Barbara Kim Hagman, with the governor shutting down the veteran cemeteries and telling us that we couldn't go in there and provide memorial services. So the VFW has a long history of, I don't want to say going against the grain, but doing the right thing, and it's been proven that we've been on the right side of history in New Jersey for defending veterans' rights and demanding veterans' rights. So, it's been a long road, and we're a new generation of leaders in the organization, and we don't sit back and we're not passive about it. We're very emotional and very aggressive when it comes to the needs of our veterans and their dependents.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Mike, you coming out of the Gulf War, and at that era of veteran, it is like, you had the Vietnam veterans with Agent Orange, and then you had the Gulf War veterans with the Gulf War syndrome, and then leading up to Iraq and Afghanistan now with the burn pits. Do you find, in your experience since actually being in combat and all that entails, do you see the same thing? Do you see the VFW working to help the veterans, especially the ones who are suffering?
Well, I also run a charity, New Jersey Veterans Network, and myself and my outreach director, Doc Shoup, believe so much in the VFW that we're working for them now. We're an independent group, and we know by teaming up with the VFW, that's going to make a big difference in veterans' lives. And we've been searching for a group to work with, and we didn't have to go that far. So the VFW has always been our daddy, and now we're part of the family a little bit more and really get to see firsthand what the VFW does. And every word he's saying has been truthful. I mean, working and being able to give the freedom to do what we do, all because we have a common mission to save veterans' lives. That's what it comes down to, and we're able to do that because of the friendship and family we made with the VFW.
Mike, you have a kind of a unique background, especially in light of here we are, 2022, 2023, right on the cusp of what we went through in 2020, that summer of discontent. You have a law enforcement background. Are you retired now from?
I'm like Tom Brady. I retired from Union Police Department, but I'm so good at what I do, I decided to stay on. I work in Mendham now, so I've been working there for a few years, mostly school resource officer stuff.
I got a question for you, Mike. I've had a lot of police officers come through here, guys who are still on the job, had gone through deployments, have come back, changed. But when you see the way the public perception is of law enforcement today, it's got to bother you that so many of our law enforcement. Are you by any chance, any of you on LinkedIn? The site?
Yeah.
Every day I'm seeing Blue Lives Matter and police officers all over this country under attack. And you served up north in a town, Union Township.
Sure.
And military background, a law enforcement background. How does that impose on you?
I've been asked this numerous times. I actually have been part of the community, policing units, and spoke to multiple places about this. I tell this story, and it just sums it all up. Ferguson happened, had to work the next day. I went to roll call. I told the guys, hey, just dial it back today. No one's expecting you to do anything crazy. Just go to your calls. Don't be proactive today. Let's just take it easy and see what happens and how it goes. I remember I went into a restaurant in town, local restaurant, and there was people all different. The union's very diverse, so it was a very diverse group inside that restaurant, and no one cared. Everybody ate. People said hello to me like it was a regular day, and I realized at that moment It's really the media. I honestly believe it's just the media. People, if you're nice to each other and you just act appropriate, there's going to be people from time to time. I'm not going to lie to you, telling me that people have came up to me and said horrible things, but they said horrible things before Ferguson or actually during Floyd. So, I've been used to that, but there was nothing that really there's a huge difference in my life that's happened because of these incidents. I think the media just completely blows it out of proportion.
You know what? When I was a young kid growing up, you used to hear the words, was a routine traffic stop. I don't think there's any routine traffic stops today.
No. Most officers get killed during traffic stops. There's nothing routine about it.
Yeah, I love what our law enforcement does. But I've always been very respectful. If I got pulled over, even at 68 years old, it's yes, sir. I'd never be disrespectful to a law enforcement officer. Jay, let me ask you a question, because you're state commander of the VFW, and there's hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of VFW members. There's one state commander. And if there's one thing I've learned is that there is a tremendous workload involved in this. You are busy almost every day. What do you find is the most demanding part of the job that you do?
The most demanding part of the job, I would say it's twofold. Having to deal with the barstool quarterbacks, and I use that term loosely, right? The barstool quarterbacks that never raise a hand to help a veteran out, but sit at the canteen and are the naysayers, right? I don't want to say that is a huge piece, but that is probably the most annoying piece, because you see all the good works that every one of the posts in our department does, right? And then you have the naysayers that will send emails, send text messages, will call you to criticize what the organization or their post is doing when they refuse to get their butt off that bar stool and raise their hand to help out and do anything substantial for a veteran that could possibly have a need. That is probably the most frustrating thing that you have to deal with. The other part is, this position is a political position. Politics is a big part of the game. If you want to get anything passed for service-wise for veterans, you have to be in the realm of politics. We're having conversations with politicians every day, every night, emails, meetings, and you have to be an active player in order to make sure that those services are there. Because if not, we're a minority in New Jersey. I mean, there's less than 1% of 1% that has served in combat. Less than 1% of the population has put on a uniform. It's easy to dismiss and forget about those sacrifices that folks have done when it comes to legislation. And you have to be engaged with politicians both at a federal, state, and local level to ensure that you're holding their feet to the fire to provide those services to the veterans and their families.
Now, do you find the cooperation exists between the work you do and the politicians that you have to deal with?
The biggest issue that I see is everybody raises their hand and says that they're here to support veterans. But where it comes to really where the rubber meets the road, you can get a lot of lip action. You can get a lot of, yes, we support you. But when it comes time for putting that bill on the floor and getting it past appropriations and having the dollar amount put aside, the biggest thing that you hear is, oh, that's too expensive. Well, my comment to them is nobody ever raised their hand to question what that cost is going to be to have that veteran deployed or that unit deployed. But now that we're home and we're looking to be made whole, now you're questioning what that cost is going to be. So, there's the rub to say, after the fact, oh, it's going to be too costly for us to provide you that service. Well, you know what? Nobody thought about that when you said we're going to send you to Nicaragua, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to whatever it is. There was an open check that they sent out.
Jay, we're going to jump in and try to get this phone call coming in. Hello, you're on the air with my guests, Jay and Mike. Hello?
Hello?
Go ahead, we're listening.
Hi, so I wanted to know, what is the VFW doing to help families with their property taxes?
All right, that very good question. There is a current piece of legislation that is out there right now. It's by Assemblyman Benson out of the Hamilton district. It's a piece of legislation A458. It's a veterans proportional property tax bill. It's currently in, there's a companion bill in the Senate as well. And that piece of legislation will give a proportional property tax relief to service-connected veterans based on their service-connected disability. So if somebody has a 30% disability, they would get a 30% property tax break up to $7,500. So that is the biggest thing that will be pushed through with the New Jersey Assembly, hopefully this year. That will have a direct impact on the families and dependents in New Jersey. That would give substantial relief to families that are struggling to pay their property tax bills in New Jersey. So we're hopeful that that's going to get passed. We have commitments from both the Senate and Assembly that those are making their way through committee hearings right now. It's got bipartisan support. So this will be a big win for the veterans in New Jersey to help them maintain their homes in New Jersey as well as continue to call New Jersey home. Great question, though. Thank you.
Anything else for our guests?
No, that's it. Thank you.
No, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Of course. Bye.
Is there anything else that we're involved in with our lawmakers that you'd like to tell our listeners about?
There's quite a few bills that we have currently right now working their way through the legislation. The biggest issue we have going on right now is, I shouldn't say starting to go on, continuing to go on, is the festering issues with Menlo Park Veterans Home and Paramus Veterans Homes. We were the hardest hit veteran homes in the country when it came to the deaths of our veterans during COVID. Vineland didn't have a huge impact, but they still had a significant amount of death down in Vineland. We had a Department of Health audit that came in back in August and found extreme mismanagement and extremely poor patient care. And I won't get into the specifics of their findings, but they were critical enough that Medicare turned around and said that if these weren't remediated, that they were going to pull their funding from the veterans' homes as of March 18th. The VFW has been steadfast in calling for the governor's office to have an internal audit investigation to the issues that we had at Menlo Park and Paramus, to do a post-mortem that he claimed that he was going to do, 2 years ago, and there were some issues. So, but with this most recent uncovering of the poor quality care, the VFW by itself called for a meeting with the governor and senior leadership of the MOV, the Department of Military Veterans Affairs, and presented them a proposal that would be 65% funded by the VA, 35% funding would have to come from the state, to provide single-room occupancies with negative pressure rooms, which would help facilitate a infectious control plan, a robust infection control plan that would ensure a dignified existence for our most fragile and disenfranchised veterans and families that are living in these two facilities that are state-run. We met with the governor on October 27th to present him this program, and he blinked. So I don't know that he realized, what the VFW wasn't going to stop and we were going to come and keep coming. But he blinked. And there's plenty of negative press that came out shortly thereafter in regards to that meeting. But most recently, we had a walkthrough with senior leadership of the Department of Military Veterans Affairs. They're taking it seriously. They understand the VFW's interest in these veterans' homes and our advocacy for the families and dependents that live there, that they can't just be tossed aside and be treated like second-class citizens. They've earned the right to be in those facilities, and the state of New Jersey has an obligation to provide quality health care for those residents. Mm-hmm. And we're going to stand with those residents, and we're going to continue to see this through. We've requested meetings with Congressman Pallone and Congressman Gottheimer, because in order to get this proposal pushed through, they need to prioritize this capital improvement plan with the VA, because they're in both of their districts. So we're confident that the proposal is going to be submitted to the VA. We've had meetings with the Secretary of the VA and the Undersecretary of the VA in regards to these proposals, and we've been assured that should they submit a complete, accurate package, that it's going to get funding. So we're solid in moving this project forward. It's not going to stop us, any negativity from any other veteran service organization. We've also met with Senator Vitale and Senator Crine in regards to the poor leadership of the homes. There's a current proposal on the table to break up the Department of Military Veterans Affairs, to have a civilian component take over the management of these facilities. Not to take it away from the Department of Military Veterans Affairs, but as a complement to it, right? And the VFW's comments on breaking up the MAVA was that there still needs to be that piece of the Department of Military Veterans Affairs oversight to ensure that these veterans' homes maintain their veteran-centric care, right? Because the last thing we want to have is Robert Wood Johnson or some other remote for-profit organization come in to run these facilities, and 5 years down the line, as the veteran population starts to diminish, right, well, now there's a waiting list, because you got Tom, Mary, and Jane that are moving in there that aren't veterans or dependents, and now a veteran's got to take a back seat, right? So we need to make sure that veteran-centric admission policy is there, right? And that's going to have to be maintained through the Department of Military Veterans Affairs. But the proposals that we've spoken to Senator Vitale and Crine and some other senior leaders in the Senate basically will take the leadership from like the director of nursing level and above and privatize that. And this way here, there's an accountability piece and the changing of the culture that needs to happen in these facilities to make sure that we are truly providing top-notch care.
Jay, when you look at what had developed during COVID, and it happened in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, worse than anywhere, do you get the opportunity to meet with your counterparts from those states to see if anything being done that could be helpful here?
Mm-hmm. There is. As state commander, I have a call every 2 weeks with my counterparts, and I can't say throughout the country because the VFW is worldwide. So I talk to my counterparts in Europe as well as in the Far East as well, every 2 weeks. And actually, I just was with my counterpart from Pennsylvania, Delaware, and North Carolina this past weekend. And we talk about some of the issues that they're having in their veterans' homes, legislation that has worked for their department. Unfortunately, they take the lead a lot from New Jersey, because we are probably...
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. Not at all. We are probably, and it's been said to us many times, myself, Ken Hagman, and the past commanders, that we're probably the most politically savvy and involved department that the VFW has worldwide, just because of the nature of who we are, I think, as people from New Jersey, right? We're very vocal and not afraid to let our voices be heard. But we do take... every one of us that are in the senior levels of the organization take our responsibility and our obligations to our veterans and dependents to heart, and we truly live our mission, and part of that is legislation and holding politicians' feet to the fire. And other departments have taken a look at that, whether it's Massachusetts or Delaware or whatever. They've taken some of the lead from what we have to better their organizations, which is a great thing. So.
Yeah, for our listeners, 609-798-4475. You have a question for our guests, or something you would like to add to our show, give us a call. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to see if we can get this to work here. There you go. And we're going to give guests a little chance to catch their breath. We'll be back. This is a song by Vietnam veteran Billy Terrell. Been on a show a couple times.
With your name forever on the wall, now at least we all have a place to go.
Can you take a break?
We can pray and pay respects with them, the loved ones and the friends we've all come to know. There's been so many questions left unanswered since my youth. I wonder if we'll ever know the truth. Torn between holding on and letting go. It's got to be the hardest thing to do. Mom and I have cried our tears. We've been searching all these years for you. If we only knew. So much doubt we live with every day. Such a heavy price to pay. Somehow we endure. We accept all the pain we feel from a wound that never heals until we know for sure. Gone but not forgotten, no matter where you are. Time won't ever take you from our hearts. Torn between holding on and letting go. It's got to be the hardest thing to do. Mom and I have cried our tears. We've been searching all these years for you. If we only knew. If we only knew.
Welcome back to Veterans Matter live stream broadcasts with my guests Jay Boxwell and Michael Boll. Talking about a lot of things here, and I still want to let you know you can call in at 609-798-4475 if you got something to add to the show. We'd love to hear from you. And tune in. I'm going to, this has been a work in progress because we've got a new setup here. When the music comes on, we kind of try to block out the cameras so that you don't get every goofy thing that we do during a break. So,
Been picking my nose for the last 10 minutes. So.
Michael, let me in your bio here, and you had mentioned it earlier. You kind of saw as a police officer the need to help veterans. And you founded in 2017 the New Jersey Veterans Network. What exactly does that do?
I always tell people we're a mobile outreach team that aggressively seeks out veterans in need. We want to be the call to the veteran in crisis or in a bad place to help them and provide them any resource to help them live a better way of life. We're all volunteers. We've proven the fact that we want to be there and put the time in necessary to help. But the most important thing is that we have no ego. We work with every other group that has the common mission. And that's how we excel at what we're able to do, is because we get people that want to do good work and provide them a service where they can meet the veteran that needs the help and help them work together with that veteran to get that person in a better way of life. And then we tell our veterans that we help, pay it forward. That's all we ask. And it builds a bigger team. And then we work on our mentorship program with that.
I would have to believe that includes homeless veterans. And
Absolutely.
I don't know. I know here in southern New Jersey, we have a lot of veterans. Back when I was really involved in helping our homeless situation here, a lot of our Vietnam veterans were holed up under the boardwalk during the, and I can remember holding a hand out to try to prod them to come out, and a Vietnam veteran looked me in the eye and he says, "Hey, 40 years ago when I wanted your help, you didn't want to help us. We're better off here." And that's a sad state. There's a lot of truth to it.
Sure.
But today, I believe that we are trying our best to help. Do you see that in law enforcement?
I think if you're not afraid to tell someone you love them, I mean, that's what you have to really get through to the veteran in need is hey, I'm here for you, and follow up. That's where a lot of groups fail. They give someone a phone number, or they tell them to contact this person or go to this place, and they never follow up with that veteran. So that veteran will either not call, or he'll go and get a busy signal and not leave a message, and you failed that person. If you're going to say that you're going to help a veteran, you better be there the entire time. Otherwise, you'll lose trust, and you'll be at square one with them, and that's not fair, and that's not what we do. We really provide a service that really goes the extra mile, and we're proud of our results because, our first year we saved 12 lives just by using the formula that we came up with. And it's a team. It's not just one person. It's a team, and we love our team members, and they volunteer and come out and really make a difference.
I got an email here from Jack from Mays Landing. Wanted to know if you were the one involved with something called Operation Rebound Racing Team.
So Operation Rebound is our racing team. That's a pretty cool thing. I'm not going to lie to you. So our first event was a bike ride to New Jersey to D.C. At the Walter Reed Medical Center. We did it in one night. So we took us 22 hours. And what we really did was get veterans who were in a bad place, train them, and really show everybody how we can get people to do amazing things. Ultra events is just a great way to really shock and awe the public on how impressive your mind can work and what your body can do when you're in a good place. And what we did was we went down there and brought our vets, some of our disabled vets who were in hand cycles, and raised about $5,000 or $6,000, and brought it to the vets from Walter Reed and got some members to join our team. And we are using the recreational therapy, and the racing team is part of that. We also have law enforcement involved as well, and first responders as part of the team. So we don't discriminate. We have everybody in uniform working together to help people get in a great physical shape, but also in a physical mind where they're able to do incredible things.
It's interesting. Every time I hear today Walter Reed, it brings me back when I first started this radio show back around 2009. A friend, a Vietnam vet, Noel Cook, who was at the time Undersecretary of Defense under for President Obama, and he sent Noel to Walter Reed because there was such a problem with our transition units there. And so Noel goes there, and in his report, it just seemed that they were just pushing medication on our vets. They were helping them. And the problem was just totally out of hand. And when he came back and reported his findings, President Obama fired him. And to hear today that things are working properly at Walter Reed is great to hear. Our veterans, especially, our combat veterans, they come back. One of the things I've learned, and you guys would be able to say, Mike, you're right, and that is that you don't have to be shot at to come back from war suffering from post-traumatic stress. It could be any number of things.
Correct.
that cause it. And to me, one of the things I've seen is that it's tough to come back not suffering in some way.
Right. But I want to comment on the point that you said about that you can be in combat and not necessarily, or be in a theater of operation and still have PTSD, right? But that goes for a variety of other things too. There have been tons of studies, and Congressman Pascrell has been a key proponent in this, is traumatic brain injury. You have veterans that are active duty artillerymen, right? Or grunts that are downrange, and they're firing off 155s, and they're coming in and they're landing, within close proximity. That concussion from that explosive, they've proven that even in training exercises, our veterans are getting hurt, right? Traumatic brain injuries. So it's not just PTSD, it's TBI. And just because somebody is not a combat veteran doesn't mean that they're still not wounded, right? They still don't come back or get discharged with wounds, right, that you can't see, right? And that's the stigma, right? So, Michael was a police officer, right? A lot of other individuals are working in public safety. And the biggest thing, when something goes sideways, they were damaged goods, right? Well, combat isn't the only thing that causes somebody to have an injury that necessarily isn't overtly seen, right? Traumatic brain injury happens to a variety of different individuals. Whether you're out in a Humvee and you have a car accident, right, while you're on a training mission, or that you have an explosion that goes on, right? And those are the issues that when folks come home, they're afraid to say, I need help, or they're like, I'm not a combat veteran, I can't get help, or no, I wasn't exposed to that. That's not the case, right? So while you're in your training, you're exposed to a variety of different things that can cause injury to you. And that's something that we continue to advocate for every day. And Mike's organization, you don't have to be a combat veteran. You just have to be a veteran or a public servant that needs assistance, right? That's what we're here for, right?
It's interesting. Just a couple of days ago, I was able to attend a little seminar over at the Summers Point Fire Hall, right across from Summers Point VFW. Pat Carney and Matt Jacobs, a couple of suicide awareness specialists. It was unbelievable that they are doing a program here in South Jersey.
Right.
That's the first of its kind in the nation.
It's a pilot, correct. Yep.
And it's sorely needed. I mean, everybody's heard 22 veterans a day commit suicide. And one of the things that I found, I hate to use the word interesting, but I was kind of shocked when I did some research into that figure. I found that it actually went all the way back to the beginning of the Vietnam War, that 22 veterans a day were we were losing to suicide. And it goes, it is it's unbelievable. We got a couple calls coming in, so we'll take the first one. Welcome, listener. You have something for our guests?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm calling it. Yeah, I'm calling for the Veterans Matter show.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I had a question for Mr. Boxwell and Mr. Boll about veteran suicide prevention.
Okay.
Okay. How does this work? Do I just wait, or what do you want me to do?
Yeah. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, so my question would be, veteran suicide is a huge matter in the veteran community. What's being done in the future to prevent veteran suicide, and what are the veteran rates like?
Okay. So the question what the individual is asking is what's currently being done or what's been proposed to decrease veteran suicide, and what are the rates, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
So,
well, what's being done to improve on lower rates for veteran suicide? Is a better way to put it.
Got you. Do you want to?
Sure. It's a great question. We really go with the philosophy of aggressively seeking out veterans in need, like I said earlier. But showing someone and being there for them, the mentorship programs that we were working on, but really being there as a friend and helping someone throughout their experience really does make a difference. And currently we're working on an anti-suicide PTSD awareness program where we're going to have mentors throughout the entire state with the VFW, the American Legion, the PBA, FOP, FMBA, all the police and fire and military organizations coming together and putting mentors around the state to assign someone to help them through a bad situation. Suicide, 22 a day, the numbers can even be even higher, so it's very important to have people trained properly. Our charity really helps people before they're in that type of crisis, but there are crisis hotlines, and there's VA that does that particular work, but we don't turn anyone down, and we have to make sure, even if we're having someone referred to another group for help, we still follow up and stay with that person, and that's very important. We're able to really do all this because of our team and making strides in this. Is, like I said, our first year was 13 lives saved, so we're very fortunate to have a team to do that. Myself and our outreach director are able to put programs together with the recreational therapy. That was something that's really been having positive results. Just coming up with great plans and ideas, taking vets out. Recently, I keep saying our outreach director, Frank Shoup, but that's who he is. He's been taking vets out to movies, Comic-Con, just getting vets out and really treating them the way they should be treated. And it's been very fortunate to have that being done from time to time and helping vets, putting them in a better place. So we're very excited about our upcoming program to share that with the rest of the state, but our charity does do something about it as best that we can and what we're trained to do.
And from a organization perspective, Veterans of Foreign Wars, big part of our organization is that continued outreach, right? We preach day in and day out. Make those phone calls. Call a buddy, right? Call somebody in your post. And it doesn't necessarily mean, a buddy. It could be a friend of a friend that somebody heard. Hey, listen, I haven't seen Tom in a couple of days. Well, let me reach out to him, right? Make that phone call just to say hello, right? Folks have a need to be wanted, right? To feel wanted, to feel needed. And that's a simple thing of making that phone call to say, hey, buddy, how you doing today, right? It has to happen. That's part of our lives, right? And I think a lot of times in this society today, you get so running around and worrying about a lot of other things that you forget to worry about your buddy, your friend. And it's that conversation that is going to save that one life. I got to say, just recently the VA came out with a study that showed that 22 number is extremely low. The number is significantly higher than that. And you have the governor's challenge, which, the governor said he's been doing it for a year or so, but it really hasn't had much movement on it in quite some time. They're supposed to be doing a relaunch of the governor's suicide prevention program starting 1 January this year. So we're looking forward to seeing what kind of things Department of Military Veterans Affairs are going to put out there. I know they've been out doing some SAFE training throughout the state. I know the VFW has also sponsored multiple suicide prevention and awareness trainings that we've done on our own throughout multiple parts of the state. And we've actually had a great buy-in from many of our posts throughout the state that it's a casual conversation, right? And the biggest thing that folks come to us and say, how do I ask the question? How do I ask somebody if they're okay? And what did I do if they tell me they're not? They're the two biggest things that we hear, right? And the answer to that is very simple. How are you doing today? That's a simple question you could ask, right? You know,
Good answer.
so somebody's going to let you know how they're doing, especially a veteran, right? Veteran, we're not shy about telling folks how we feel, right? Especially if it's another veteran, right? There's an immediate bond. But if somebody comes back and says that, hey, I don't feel good today, I feel like hurting myself, well, then what do I do next, right? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to stay with that person and let them know that you're going to get them someplace that's going to make them feel safe, right? You're going to take the bull by the horns, and to Mike's point, you're not going to leave that person, because the last thing you want to do is leave that person alone and leave them in a point of isolation. Right. That now their mind is going crazy. They feel like they don't have any supports. The one person that did ask them how they're doing now walked away from them. Now it's really going to hit the fan. So you stay with that person, and you take them, and you get somebody out there that can give them some professional help. And down the road, they're going to look at you and say, brother, thank you for helping me, right? That's what it's about.
And also, I just wanted to say, don't be afraid if it's not in your toolbox. You can't handle everything. Suicide is not something that you joke with or think that you're a therapist. If you can't do it, you got to refer the person to the people that can do the work, and that's a problem. Don't be afraid to do it. If you do get the police involved to help get that person to the hospital and get them help, follow up still, even though that person might MF you and not be happy that you did in the beginning, but you want to save that person's life. So you have to know your role, And one thing I hate the most is looking on social media when someone says they're going to hurt themselves, and people are just writing things like "suck it up" or no, but no one's making an effort to even help this person. They're just writing things like "hang in there," and it just drives me crazy when people do that, because you're not doing anything but just writing messages of nonsense to this person at that point.
Caller, thank you very much. Our board's lighting up. We're going to go on to the drop that call and go to the next one. Hello, you're on the air with our guests. Hello?
Yes, this is the Amish commander calling. I just want to commend Mr. Boxwell on the great job he does for the department in New Jersey.
Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you, Commander. I greatly appreciate it. So you're doing a great job out there yourself. Bravo Zulu, brother.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, hey, take care, brother. I just want to give you following, wish you best of luck and happy holidays.
You too, brother. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and give Getz a little break here and play this song, the 8th of November by Big and Rich.
On November 8, 1965, the 173rd Airborne Brigade on Operation Hump, War Zone D in Vietnam, were ambushed by over 1,200 VC. 48 American soldiers lost their lives. Severely wounded and risking his own life, Lawrence Joel, a medic, was the first living black man since the Spanish-American War to receive the United States Medal of Honor for saving so many lives in the midst of battle that day. Our friend Niles Harris, retired 25 years United States Army, the guy who gave Big Kenny his top hat, was one of the wounded who lived. This song is his story. Caught in the action of kill or be killed, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his brother.
As he left South Dakota to fight for the red, white, and blue. He was 19 and M16, just doing what he had to do. He was dropped in the jungle where the choppers would rumble with the smell of napalm in the air. Then the sergeant said, look up ahead. Like a dark evil cloud, 1,200 came down on him and 29 more. They fought for their lives, but most of them died in the 173rd Airborne. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965, the 8th of November. Now he's 58 and his ponytail's gray, but the battle's still blazing in his head. He limps when he walks, but he's strong when he talks about the shrapnel that left in his leg. He puts on a gray suit over his airborne tattoo, and he ties it on one time a year, and remembers the fallen as he orders a tall one and swallows it down with his tears. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965, the 8th of November. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965, the 8th of November. As he left South Dakota to fight for the red, white, and blue. He was 19 and green with a new M16, just doing what he had to do.
This is Veterans Matter live stream broadcast, and I want to get back into some of the things we're talking about. I have a little memo here from the Office of the Prosecutor in the County of Atlantic, William Reynolds. Attention veterans, family members, and service organizations. The Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office Veterans Diversion Program is available to certain veterans of the armed services who have pending nonviolent criminal charges in Superior Court. The prosecutor's office here in Atlantic County is seeking veterans willing to serve as volunteer mentors to become trained by the New Jersey Department of Military and Veterans Affairs and working with fellow vets through the diversion process. For more information, please contact Detective Chris Southard at 609-909-7965 or Detective Hannah Piat at 609-909-7859. And listeners, if there's something you missed that any of our guests said, or any email, phone number, contact info, you can always reach out to me at 609-226-2668 or my email address, irskill@aol.com, and I'd be glad to get you whatever information you need. As we were ending our last portion of the program, we were talking about suicide awareness and what's going on today with our veteran population. And, the new 988 should be something positive. Some of the horror stories I had heard in the past, people calling up, be put on hold or things like that. I think those are things of the past. And Jay, when you look at the new things that are happening, suicide awareness and veterans, that's got to be one of the top priorities of any veteran service organization.
It is. Yep.
Do you find that mainstream politicians get it? Do you think that it's a priority in the government sector?
I think that superficially, there's a lot of lip action when it comes to it. There's a lot of
sad, though, isn't it?
It is sad. In the conversations that I've had with the New Jersey legislature, they've been receptive to our suggestions. Right? We have multiple behavioral health care facilities that are state-run, whether it's through Rutgers, at the Camden, New Brunswick campus, right? That we need to expand those services, right? You need to turn around and meet the veterans where they're at. Just like we have for the Veterans of Foreign Wars and American Legion, whatever it might be. Folks aren't walking into your doors, right? You have to go out and meet those veterans where they're at. And if you think that you're going to have a brick and mortar mental health clinic in Piscataway or Camden or Newark or Passaic or Patterson, and folks are just going to walk in and say, I need help, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? So just like they did for mental health for the severe and persistent mentally ill and dual diagnosed population 15, 20 years ago, they came out with the PACT teams, right? And not to be confused with the PACT Act that was just passed into law, but the PACT team, Programs for Assertive Community Treatment, where they went out and actually outreached to mental health clients in the community to make sure that they were linked up and there was treatments available and all kinds of stuff. And they were a team-driven approach that had a therapist, a social worker, a doctor, all kinds of stuff, working with folks in the community. So you met folks where they were at. They didn't have to come to you. And we've had the conversation with the legislature that we need to take that model and replicate that to the veteran populations, right? And if you can't do it through our educational systems that we have, Rutgers, Rowan, Stockton, wherever they're at, where they have nursing schools, social work schools, all those good things, right? We have to use it through our charity organizations, right? And that's one of the reasons why that Michael's charity is part of my commander's project, right? For their role in what they do in suicide prevention. That's key. So we already have those networks in place. And I say it time and time again to members of the legislature when I meet with them. Let's exploit our network of charities that we have, the resources, to ensure that every veteran is safe, right? It's already a network that's been proven and tested. You can't reinvent the wheel, right? There's been legislation that's put out there that some legislators want to have DMAVA start tracking suicide contacts and stuff like that. There's stuff out there that's already in place. I can't say that I agree with that, right? You're reinventing the wheel and putting an unnecessary burden on a government bureaucratic organization that already is stressed when we already have that data set in place and already have networks in the community that can fulfill that. All you would need to do is fund those organizations. You turn around and give Mike Boll's organization, right? You give Mike Boll's organization $150,000. That's going to give him 2 social workers to come and do community outreach, plus give him a vehicle, right? It's a no-brainer. Versus turn around and, say you want to do that at the MAVA. Now you got to give them $650,000, right? Because it's a state organization. A lot of red tape, right? A lot of layers of fat that money's got to get spread amongst, right? So when you're doing it with where the rubber meets the road with the community-based groups, those funds are going to be better spent. You're going to have accountability for those dollars, and you're going to see the return on that investment. Where now in state government, where do you see the return on the investment? You don't. Nobody can come back and say, hey, we saved, 50 veterans this year because of our suicide outreach. Mike can tell you exactly how many folks that they've saved, right? Community Hope can tell you exactly how many people they've saved. Bridgeway House, right? Volunteers of America, they can tell you exactly how many folks they've saved based on our outreach. And they're doing that without getting state funding, right? That's the key piece. You got greater accountability for those dollars. And that's the conversations that we have.
With the passing of the 2022 PACT Act, been a lot of things have changed. And if you watch enough television, one of the things that aggravates the heck out of me, I don't know about you guys being veterans, the constant commercials about lawyers trying to get veterans on board for the Camp Lejeune.
That's just a huge problem.
I don't know how the VA feels about that. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. I don't know how the VFW fits in here. But if you were to get a call, Jay, from a veteran, and he said, you know what, I didn't even know about this. Which way should I go? Should I call this attorney who's advertising on TV, or should I go see my VA outreach specialist?
Very valid point, and we get those calls. They come in every day, right? In New Jersey, we have 5 veteran service officers that provide services to veterans and their dependents in New Jersey, right? But the first thing that we're going to ask them, because it's 2 separate things that you're talking about, right? You have the Camp Lejeune lawsuit, which is totally different than getting your service-connected disability for your exposure at Camp Lejeune through the VA, right? Apples and oranges, right? And I don't want to say one has nothing to do with the other, because there is some overlay, and the VA hasn't decided yet how they're going to intertwine that payment that you get because you sued the federal government. Is it going to offset your service-connected disability? They haven't come out and overtly said that that's going to happen yet, because they haven't made a decision yet with the Inspector General through the VA, right? They haven't made that determination. But the first order of business that somebody would need to do is file a claim with a veteran service officer, right? And we would encourage them to call down to our office, do their intake form, and then it would get farmed out to one of our 5 VSOs, depending on where they are in the state, to get that application process done. Because now you're on the road to getting your service-connected disability, to getting that payment, to getting recognized that you do have an issue from Camp Lejeune or wherever it might have been that you served, right? Not necessarily Camp Lejeune. But then from there, you can then take your separate part, and on your own, we can give you direction on should you file, a lawsuit with that. That's up to the individual person, right? The VFW has a couple law firms that actually wrote some of the legislation on the federal level that are very keen on how the process is going to go. And we can, encourage you to file with one of those individuals. The bottom line is the lawyers are looking to get their cut. Some of them are charging anywhere up to 38%, 40%. of whatever the take is. The organizations that the VFW has affiliated with, it's significantly less of what the cut that they're going to take, right? But nonetheless, it's two separate things. So the first order of business is, did you ever file a claim for the VA compensation, VA disability? And if the person says no, we get them in the door and get them taken care of. Whether they're eligible as a VFW member or not, they're a veteran that still needs to get those services that they're entitled to. And we're going to help them move through that process.
You know, I find it hard to believe. I'm an accountant. I hear of it all the time in the private sector with Social Security, where somebody gets Social Security disability and then files a lawsuit for how they got disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And they win a decent sum of money. And just like workers' comp, you got to pay it back.
Got to pay it back, exactly.
I don't know how this is going to work for our veterans.
And if somebody tells you that they do know how it's going to work,
I don't.
they're lying to you, because it hasn't been determined yet at the front.
Right.
And I can tell you that wholeheartedly. We have weekly calls with our DC office, and they're on it like white on rice of what's going on with the VA. And I don't want to say we have an inside track, but the VFW, when it comes to the PACT Act getting passed, if it wasn't for the VFW on the steps of the Capitol for the week before protesting, like we did back in 1896 for veterans benefits after the Spanish-American War, right? If I might be wrong on the dates, but Spanish-American War, that bill wouldn't have gotten passed, right? It was the VFW that led the fight with that, right? So we do have a greater understanding, and we've been assured that there has been no determination yet of how they're going to handle the lump sum payments that you would get from your claim that you filed against the government to offset your service-connected disability. There's been no determination on that as of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. And
and one of the biggest problems is that
if the past has been a reflection of what we have to look forward to, I can see our veterans getting the short end of the stick, and that's why it's so important. And I can't stress this enough: for if you're a veteran, get involved with your local veteran service organization.
Yes.
If you're a combat vet, you can get it to the VFW. Do it. The VFW, from the work I do here, has been on top of everything that our veterans need. If you're not a combat veteran, you have the American Legion, you have the AMVETS. If you're a disabled veteran, you can get, the DAV. But get involved. And if you want to know what's happening, the best way of knowing is to be involved.
And you're 100% right. Like, the VFW doesn't take the stance that, you have to be a combat veteran for us to represent you, right? We ask of anybody like we would ask of ourselves. You've earned that right to raise your hand and voice an opinion. And I don't care whether you went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma and never deployed, or you've had 6 tours in Afghanistan. You have the same voice wherever you served. You raised your hand, and some folks back from Vietnam area didn't have that opportunity to raise their hand. They were told, you're coming in, right? And we're drafted. But still, you've earned that right to have a voice. And if you don't exercise that voice, it's going to be stifled. And you owe it to yourself and your brothers and sisters that raised their hand and wore that uniform to speak your piece and demand what you've been owed.
I'll take it a step further. When you're a veteran or you join the military, you're obligated to help your brothers and sisters. And I actually shame people if I have to. When you come home, that's your job. You took an oath. You're there to help. And that continues when you get out of the military. So you should be doing at least something once a year. We tell our people that volunteer now, if you show up for one event, that's one more than you wouldn't have. So that's doing your part a little bit, but we wish we do more.
We got a call coming in. We'll take that call. Go ahead, caller. Do you have a question for our guests? Hello?
Yes, Philip Oliver. Just, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Go ahead.
Yep. I just wanted to touch base with the how the state commander said with the VFW getting out involved with like the community. Took over now. It's my second year as being one of the post commanders, and that's one thing I realized that what was lacking in my area about being out into the community, having the community know, like, you know, we're still around and we're out in the community helping out. You know, I felt we weren't out that much in my area, and now we're taking it over. Now my second year, it feels like more involved in the community, that get along good with the town. I get along good with our area, our Army North Jersey recruiters, and our National Guard. It feels like we're out there more often, and now we're seeing more people coming in that want to sign up, and directing them the right way. And another issue that I'm worked on this year is a lot of our younger members have families, and they say, "Oh, I don't want to go there because, you know, they're going to be we have a canteen." And I'm like, doesn't work that way. Our meetings is in the hall, and it's not about the canteen. You know, if you have family, bring them. They're not going to be turned away, so you can at least get involved with us and figure out what we're doing to the community as the time goes on.
Yeah, you said Phil, right? Felipe,
Yeah.
right? So I'm brutally aware of your post. So you guys, and Phil's talking here. Phil's one of the younger veterans that we have that took over a post that I want to say was a failing post for quite a few years, right? They strictly were worried about having a canteen. Phil came in a couple years ago and received some great resistance from I want to say the old guard, you know, but folks that had been there for quite some time. And now his post is run by Iraq-Afghan veterans, and they are superstars in his district. And Phil, you got something with Menlo Park Mall coming up, right?
Yes, we have with January 28th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to be doing a recruiting drive, and also I believe a veteran state officer will be there to help any veterans that need to fill out help with any claims that they need.
Right. So Phil has taken his post and elevated their game to truly be parts of the community. So, you know, he's going to one of the major malls in Central Jersey, and it's not just a recruiting event, but it's showing that the VFW is still a viable organization in that community to provide resources for families and their dependents. So you're doing a great job up there, Phil. We appreciate what you're doing, and have a great holiday.
Hey, Phil, just want to let you know, and this is why I was hired from the VFW, to really go out there and show other VFW posts to do the same work that you're doing. Because when I was younger, the VFW played a part in their community. They were entwined with the people that lived in that town. They just did so many events with the people, and we lost that. Not just the VFW, the Elks, the Knights, all these social groups are just collapsing. And the VFW should be on the forefront of really participating in the community. And like I say a million times, this is the reason why we knew that this was the organization to be a part of, because they really give a lot to really make a difference in the community. Because when you win over the people in your town, it's going to make the VFW just a lot stronger and give them the power to help save lives. That's the bottom line. So thank you, Phil, for everything you've done. And we can always take a page out of what you're doing and implement that statewide.
Yeah, the work doesn't stop, though. We always got to keep
it
on
doesn't.
going,
Never.
keep doing what we do.
And thank your wife for letting you be part of the organization. Can't forget that.
Oh, she loves it.
As do all of ours.
Yes.
Thank you for your call, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Me and Jay were talking on the way here. Our spouses really do put up with a lot. They do understand the mission, and Jay is living proof for putting the mission first, and it is a lot of sacrifice, and it's a rough ride. It's a rough ride. It's a rough ride on your health and your time, but you know that you're really making a difference and you care, and that's what you see, the finish line of really doing great work. And our spouses are just unbelievable that the patience they have.
Yeah, 100%.
Put up with the work that we both do. But I've seen it firsthand with his wife, and he's seen it with mine. So God bless them both.
And anybody that wants to be involved in any type of fraternal organization, your significant other has to play a role. And if you don't have the support of your family, you're not going to be able to help anybody else, you know. And it truly is. I mean, my daughters grew up in the Veterans of Foreign Wars, you know. I mean, they're in college now, but they did plenty of stand downs, whether it was in Atlantic City, or Cherry Hill, Newark. They were with me every step of the way as we went. My wife was with me, you know. I mean, you know, they do more for veterans than most people that I know, right? Mm-hmm. And more of it's just by osmosis, right? Just because they're collateral, right? And
one of the things I've been pretty lucky being involved with the American Legion Riders down here. Our Legion Riders group probably do more for veterans down here in South Jersey than any other veterans organization. We've been really blessed with some great support. We have a scholarship program. Tom Dixon, our president, has helped to build it up even further. We just did a toy drive with the Hamilton Police Department, and we do a lot of honor missions, putting to rest our older veterans, or God forbid, during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, burying our war dead. And when you look at the work and you see the women behind the men that are doing it, it doesn't work without them. And even sitting with Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans, leaving their families behind, women leaving their husbands behind, maybe sometimes dealing with an infant.
Yes.
Had the baby and went off to war. It's unbelievable the sacrifices that our military families make. It's not always just the veteran.
No.
The family so often. And, you know, Mike, you've got it. You had both ways. First as a veteran, then as a law enforcement officer. Every time you walk out the door, you're leaving behind your family. I don't know how to do it. I always said to myself, I could never do that job because one thing I'm coming home.
Right.
You know, and in today's climate, you could be just sitting in your police vehicle, minding your own business, maybe listening to something happening in another sector, and some screwball that had nothing better to do, but it has a hatred for law enforcement.
Yep.
You know?
I mean, listen, you know, I worked in one town that was really busy, and you have to be very tactical at all times. You got to take your job serious. You can have fun too, don't get me wrong, but you know, there's times and places for that type of behavior. But when something bad happens, you really got to answer the call. And being in the military, it was 4 years. You know, the police job was 25 and still more. You know, and I would say the police job was more dangerous. You know, because of the time I put into it. You know, but I have to make the best of both. And being a police officer in this day and age is a difficult task. You know, I'm on my tail end of the career, so I'm like the dinosaur of the leftover from the old regime. I saw how it used to be to it is now. It's made significant changes. A lot of it I agree with. There's a part that I don't, but I understand that, you know, you're out there to help the public. And if that's your goal and you really believe in that, you'll succeed at being a police officer. But it is frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you. It's very frustrating.
You know, I can remember the last time I participated in a motorcycle run. I was talking to Jay earlier from Warminco Park to the Vietnam Memorial. And the day before the event, there was someone blew up a trash can.
At the Seaside Heights?
Yeah, and I can remember after we got to the Vietnam War Memorial, the law enforcement had made them remove every trash can from the site.
Yep.
And it was a little harrowing at first because we didn't know who they were targeting.
Right.
Yep.
My friend's the one who shot him, so...
yeah. In Linden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Marine
really
as well,
cool.
Marine.
Yep.
You know, and the one thing that the politicians don't do is they don't make it easier. There's, I hate to use the word, the liberal, but it just seems that in liberal states, the laws are not in law enforcement's favor anymore.
I have to say New Jersey is a very unique state. We are one of the lowest in shootings and police-involved shootings, so that's why you didn't see mass protesting, and our police officers are a little bit more diverse than they are in other states. It's thank God that we have that. We're just a little bit different when it comes to dealing with people from lower-income families, where criminals usually are from the lower, income, and we have a better way of dealing with that because we're more intertwined communities when you're hiring police officers. But it's still rough. I mean, there's some people out there that really want to use the media and their platform to hurt current police officers and the way that their job is being performed. And it's a frustrating battle that you have to prove yourself every day that you're good at what you're doing, because there's going to be people out there questioning every little thing you do. And they're going to tell you the new laws that they make up from YouTube on how to do your job. Everyone's a lawyer now. People talk back like they've never done before, and it's a hard road to really understand the psyche of what's going on in this country with people when they're dealing with the police, because it's changing so much, and the police aren't fighting back the way they should be and preventing these bad habits from becoming legal and people just doing whatever they want.
I got a text from one of our veteran service outreach specialists in southern New Jersey. Says VFW outreach and accredited veteran service officers have been an excellent resource in our deep southern New Jersey area. Just want to thank the department for recognizing how critical accredited veteran services are to aid veterans from initial claim all the way through. Go team. P.S. Family support is critical.
Yes.
And Jackie does a great job down here.
Oh, she does.
Her husband, John, I believe he's still the commander at Belle Plaine.
No, he's not. He's actually moved over to 6063 in Brick. He's up there. He's our current judge advocate for the department. Doing a good job, keeping busy. I know he's busy with Nom Nights, the riders. Busy guy. Jackie does a lot of great things. But to your point, to your caller's point, we just hired another veteran service officer to help our current workload in South Jersey. They're going to be covering Southern Ocean, Atlantic, and Cape May counties. Wow. So we're going to have another tool in the toolbox for veterans in South Jersey. We're really trying to expand our offerings for our veteran service group. So we see that there's a need there, and we're trying to make it better for everybody.
Right. Well, you lost Patrick over to the suicide awareness group.
Yep.
And it was a great little seminar the other day. I got this memo here. Says, were you exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances? And it goes on there having a PACT Act awareness at the VA's putting on a health and wellness fair.
That's been statewide.
I don't know who could make this 11:30 to 1 p.m. It was on December 16th. I don't know if you got down there.
East Orange did it, and they did it in 4 different sections, and I think they did it right.
Right.
And they actually invited the VFW to speak. I was one of the speakers as well, but they also had VSOs from the VF. They really lost their ego on that one. I was actually proud to say that they did an excellent job by opening up to us, the VFW, and really really doing a good job and bringing us together for that. Because when you have 4 different times, more people can go, and from what I understand, they had about 300 people there. So they did it right.
Let me ask you guys a question. I like to ask all my veteran guests this, and Jay, I'll ask you first. Would you do this all over again?
100%. No questions asked. When I went into the military, I had no idea about the Veterans of Foreign Wars or American Legion. I shouldn't say that. I was a son of American Legion while I was in high school because my dad was in the Legion. Yeah, 100%. The advocacy that the organizations do it's a shame that it is so sorely needed. And if you don't have folks that have that voice to be the advocate, the veterans are going to take a back seat, and I would do it wholeheartedly again.
Jay, before I get over to Mike, I just want to ask you a question. What was Operation Praying Mantis?
Praying Mantis. So, Operation Praying Mantis, that was during the tanker wars in Iraq. Iran, Iraq wars, Straits of Hormuz, where they were blowing up the oil tankers. We were over there on oil rigs, escorting oil tankers through the Straits of Hormuz to ensure the flow of oil through the Persian Gulf. Operation Praying Mantis was just one of the operations that was a result of a bombing of one of the ships that we were put out there to go through and pay some retribution to the Iranians at the time. So,
and Mike, would you do it all over again?
Well, thanks to Rambo and Commando, absolutely. I really, really like that. I've been able to really live the life that I wanted to live and be very happy with a career. I was like a rookie and out there as a cop as well, but the Marine Corps really spearheaded me into getting into the lifestyle that I wanted to, and I owe them everything to this day.
And your law enforcement career also? Huh?
Absolutely. There was some rough patches, but I put the uniform on happily, and I'm able to make a difference out there as well. So I love wearing a uniform and really being out there in the community, showing them what I can do.
Guys, is there anything going on that you'd like to make an announcement of or something to get support of? One of the things I don't have that I would like you to send me, Mike, is how to support the New Jersey Veterans Network. And is the Operation Rebound racing team still operating?
Yeah, so during the Father's Day weekend, that's going to be the VFW convention. Operation Rebound is going to be doing a 100-mile event. We're going to be doing 22-mile running and then finishing up with a biking ride for their POW MIA ceremony. We do that every year. We get 20 to 30 people together and do some kind of long-distance ultra event to really get awareness out there for suicide and PTSD awareness. And then we'll be launching by that time our mentorship Uniform Heroes project, where we incorporate first responders, building up mentors throughout the state. So that's going to be our big project, with the VFW really being our dad on that and helping pushing it forward.
Try to get me that information.
Absolutely,
on it.
I'll send that out as soon as we start getting it going.
Anything going on that you would like to announce to our?
Sure. We had the Veterans of Foreign Wars is having our midwinter conference coming up. That's going to be January 13th and 14th at the Clarion and Toms River. We are having all kinds of different breakout groups starting Friday night with the leadership training, and this is open to anybody who wants to come. They can call our department office down in Trenton and get some more information on that, or they can email office@njvfw.com and get information on that. We have our keynote speaker is John Wayne Troxel, Saturday afternoon. He was the third senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Super motivational speaker. He was the senior enlisted advisor in Afghanistan. And when they asked him, do you have a message for the Taliban? And he said yes. He said they should surrender unconditionally with a white flag waving over their head. He goes, if not, he said, we will kill them by any means necessary, even if that means beating them with an e-tool. So now he walks around signing e-tools everywhere he goes to speak. He's a super motivational speaker. We're looking to have a great weekend, Friday and Saturday, at the Clarion and Toms River. It's going to be a superstar event for 2 days. I invite everybody to come down there. And the other thing is, too, stay involved with legislation. You know, there's plenty of bills that are out there. Our legislative team works to get the information out there. But talk to your congressman, talk to your state senators, talk to your assembly people. They're there to represent you. If you have an issue that is a veteran-related issue, obviously talk to your veteran service organizations, right? They can give you some inside information. But please don't discount what it takes when you call your congressman or senator or assembly person. If they get 5 or 10 calls to their office, they say, oh, my God, people are up in arms. We need to work on this and get this taken care of. 10 calls can sway a vote one way or another. And folks need to really understand that. So if you're passionate about something or something's having an adverse impact on you, reach out to your elected officials.
And we've seen that work down here when people reach out to Congressman Van Drew and then to Senator Booker, Senator Menendez. We're now in the middle of having a new clinic built here in Atlanta.
You're exactly right. Coming down the road for you. Yep.
And it does work. Let me ask you a question, Jay. Every state commander has a little priority project that they push. What's your project?
My project, I have 2. I have Mike Boll, which, I mean, Mike is bigger than
a project.
Mike is bigger than my project. Just to harness him alone is unbelievable. But no, New Jersey Veterans Network is my one project, and that's basically for their suicide prevention and their outreach that they've done. They've been superstars with that. They've been doing some food insecurity programs as well. Their work goes unnoticed many parts of the state, and I want to give them some visibility and boost them up to try to help them out. And the other part of my commander's project is Hunters Helping Heroes down here in South Jersey, right? They help homebound disabled veterans to get out, to do hunting trips, fishing trips, turkey shoots, all that good stuff. So this way here we have a full-rounded commander's project, suicide prevention, getting your homebound veterans out into the community to do some outdoor activities. I think it's a win-win, and that's where we're at this year with the Commander's Project.
I think it's really important, Mike, to get me some information on.
Sure, I mean,
on that.
Even joining our team at njvn.org, that's our website. You can go on there, or njvn1775gmail.com. Just provide us your name, email, and phone number. We put you on our list. I said it before, just coming to one event beats 0 events. We need volunteers to really help us combat veteran suicide. And one of the most important things I want to say is that a phone call could save someone's life.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, and I have one question because I don't understand why veterans can't get this particular help. And that is why isn't the VA and veteran service organizations behind service dogs for veterans? What is it that seems to hold it up?
I think there's a couple things when it comes to service dogs. I don't think anybody is against service dogs. I think the availability of service dogs is one of the things that's the biggest hindrance for a veteran to get service dogs. There's a limited number of them. And the onboarding and training to get somebody assigned to a dog is probably the most cumbersome application and process that I've ever seen. And that you're seeing more and more nonprofits. Mike doesn't do it, but there's other nonprofits that are out there that have taken the bull by the horns to get service dogs into hands of reputable, needy veterans that need them, right? Because the VA, they're slow on the draw for a lot of things, right? You know, just their history alone has shown that. Whether it's treatment for Agent Orange, the PAC, act that's coming out, they're not ready to provide the services right now, despite being signed into law. A lot of other different things. Their suicide prevention programs have been slow to ramp up. So the VA has always been slow to get behind the most necessary needed programs, right? Mm-hmm. And they always need prodding and pushing to get that done. So unfortunately, the grassroots organizations have taken it and have elevated that, and they're the ones that are actually getting the service animals. And I don't want to say dogs, it's service animals, because there's other things that veterans are using, the equine therapy, all kinds of different stuff.
And just a little pet peeve. the private sector has kind of like taken advantage of the number of disabled veterans, and so you see all these people out there with what they call a service dog, and I know there's all kinds of emotional support dogs, different types, but I think they've taken advantage where they're going into places of business with them, and store owners are just because of some of the HIPAA laws, they don't want to question
Correct.
it.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen a service dog actually attacked by someone that had a dog that had a vest on it.
Right.
And
they weren't appropriately trained.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just too much fraud. There's too much fraud with this program. I mean, anyone can go online and get a BS certificate and say that their dog is whatever category you want to put it in. No one questions anything, and this is a problem why we don't have service animals being sent out, because there's too much fraud in this. It's unfortunate because there's awesome groups out there that really train dogs to make a difference, and they get lost in the sauce when it comes to these other groups that are just signing off on anything to just make a fast buck, and that's why you have problems like that, in my opinion, at least.
I saw somebody in Costco yesterday that had a little Chihuahua and it said service dog on it.
Right.
And he was riding in the top part of the carriage like it was a 2-year-old kid. I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
I said to my wife, look at this clown, right? So obviously it's not a service dog, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, I have a very good friend of mine. He's a Iraq War veteran. He's actually in charge of, he was out front trying to find the IEDs.
Mm-hmm.
And one time he did. Blew his vehicle up. He was in pretty bad shape, but he's in a partnership of vet-to-vet service dogs in Pennsylvania, and they're doing a great job of getting the dogs to the veterans in need.
Yeah.
I think it's Johnny Hinker, Pat Carney are veteran disabled vets that have their dogs that are doing. They just showed the positive side
100%.
of it.
Johnny Hinker's dog, I tell you, probably one of the most well-behaved dogs that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that dog everywhere, when we're traveling. The dog is with us, and well-behaved, responsive, and looks out for John, so.
Nothing's better than seeing these actual dogs go to work, too. Just because the dog's just laying there, most people just don't assume what's its purpose. And when someone is having a feeling of, desperation or something, the dog will at least instinct and know that and start comforting that person. And it's not that you see it a lot, but when you do, you realize how important that particular dog is for that person's life.
There's a funny story I have. I don't know if you ever heard of Johnny Hinker and Jackie came on my show back when I was up at Stockton, and it coincided. There was a seminar for soccer players going on. All right, we do the radio show, and we come walking out, and John looks, sees the side of his van open, and when he gets over there, he didn't have the dog with him, thankfully, but one of the soccer players, this Hispanic guy, was sitting on the back of the van, kicked over the dog food all over the place, drinking a can of Morello. And I tell you, luckily a Stockton police officer came. I don't know what John would have done, but it was just unbelievable. Broke into the van, sit there, and have a beer,
It's usually that's what people do when they break in cars. Just wait for the owner to come back.
Come back with a beer.
Yeah.
John showed great restraint.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he
threw the
did.
guy out of the van, but guys, I really thank you so much for coming down and sharing this time with us. One of the things I want people to know is that if they go on to veteransmatternewjersey.com, the show that we have today will be the last, well, I should say the first show that you see. When you go to that site, it will always be there, unless you guys said something that YouTube might not be too happy
Jay
about.
warned me prior to coming here. I think I behaved.
Or I said something.
Yep.
But I really do thank you guys for coming down and sharing this time. What you're doing for our veterans is unparalleled, really.
Mike, I just want to say one more thing, Mike, before we wrap up, is all our Vietnam veterans out there, I want to say to you, welcome home. I can't say it enough. Every event that I go to, I make sure I put that out there. You gentlemen and ladies came home from an unforgiving war that you necessarily didn't sign up to go to, and your reception home was very different than the one that I got and Mike got when we came back home. So you came back home, started your lives, and moved forward. I want to say welcome home and thank you for your service, for what you did for our country. It's not forgotten. Thank you.
You know, Jay, you won't want to hear this. My dad is a decorated World War II veteran, was vice commander in Ventnor back in the 60s, and my brother was a Vietnam War veteran in the Air Force. And when my brother came home, they wouldn't let him join the VFW.
Yeah. No,
it was sad.
And that was a big rift. That's why a lot of folks went over to the Elks, whatever it was, and there's still those hard feelings today, you know. So it's unfortunate. So. And,
you know, what it did to me, and it's sad, was that from my teenage years all the way through to September 11th, 2001, you're talking good almost 30 years.
Right.
That hardened me. Yeah. I mean, I really didn't know any better. And I think that dark period in American history where we kind of lost patriotism because people believed that propaganda. My dad thought that all Vietnam veterans were baby killers. I can remember him just throwing his arms up in the air and just being so exasperated by the news reports.
Yep.
Yeah, so
unfortunately, New Jersey's the number one for being the least patriotic
state. Yep.
So it's great. Everything that our veterans get today is because of what our Vietnam veterans went through and the hard work they did. And
100%.
So as we say each week, if you love your freedom, thank a vet.